topic is going to be about protecting your digital environment. And we like to always say that awareness is our first step if you're going to have any kind of fruitful security. If you're unaware of things, then you're just not aware. And therefore, how do you prepare? How do you secure for that? So Bryne has been securing servers for several decades that have been pretty difficult to hack. He's had Chinese try to hack it. He's invited Russian hackers, Australian hackers, German hackers. Anyone else there that I forgot to mention?
That pretty much covers it right there.
To date, none of them has ever been able to hack his servers. He also sets up edge routers and other secure devices, and he's a network guru. And I've known Bryne for over 30 some years, and we've started our encounter years ago with physical security. And those same rules apply, but it's a wider scope now than ever that we have to secure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Bryne, today, from your point of view, what do you think of this list? And if it's not listed, what do you think is the most important thing we need to secure?
I would say personal information. That's the number one. As far as the list goes, the biggest threats are usually to stealing your ID and your info. That's really, everything else falls in line after that. If you can get somebody's personal information, you can get their personal info and ID. You can go after, their banking. You can go after all kinds of things you can target. And that's usually where it begins. So a lot of people don't really think about their ID and their personal information that much. They worry about attacks, but they don't think about what the construct of that is.
Right. Well, and it's more than just sometimes your bank account. Well, that's very valuable to many. Maybe it's your medical. And if I can go in under your insurance and have an operation done, and they change the blood type to match mine, and then you have to go in later on an emergency, that can be deadly.
Yeah, it can.
So there's that. People can run up debt, tax, commit crimes in your name. So there's a lot of things that's more than just hitting your bank account or your credit card. So I agree. I think we've done this for business, but we're breaking this down for more of the personal homeowner type discussion today. And so the same thing applies though for business. Their information is usually what's number one priority that they need to protect.
Well, it's important as far as ID and from personal information goes, especially if you're sole proprietor.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a sole proprietor, usually your ID and your info is tied to your bank accounts, your suppliers, your vendors, your tax information, all kinds of things fall into that. So it's not just necessarily about individuals in a home environment. I mean, if it can affect anybody, it can affect a CEO of a corporation.
Right.
Any of that kind of stuff will definitely have an impact.
And a growing area of concern that people hadn't realized was children, how vulnerable they become when their ID is stolen.
There are children out there that are 5 years old and younger that have, 5-star credit ratings, and it's because of a lot of theft and that kind of stuff where people build credit in those names.
And which is a good thing at the moment, but could be devastating later on in life as those.
Oh yeah, because it goes back to the whole thing of what happens when somebody tries to harvest off of that. So
now this has been going on for centuries, people stealing other people's IDs and information. It used to be, just showing up in somebody's name or getting things through the mail. And the big change for everybody was when the internet became a viable option here.
Mm-hmm.
And that has changed the game considerably. I mean, you used to have to protect, and you still need to protect from somebody going through your garbage. And dumpster diving, which is down here on our list. You need a good shredder to protect yourself. So, Brent, when we're looking at the internet, we're going to be talking about these areas. So, you want to lead it off here and your thoughts on network?
Well, I mean, the network is definitely something that has to be secured and has to be hardened from the outside. And you also have to basically harden your network from the inside because of social engineering and other dangers like that. Um, your kid can come in and do all kinds of things on your computer, get it infected, and you can lose information, especially if you're using it for personal finance or that kind of thing, or you've got information on there that that's private that you don't want to share with everybody. There's all kinds of things that can happen, but if you're talking about from a business aspect, employee training is everything, especially when it comes to phishing, social engineering. And as far as the actual physical security and digital security of the network, it's really something that should be audited at least every 6 months, in my opinion.
Okay.
And a full audit. I mean, really look at, because people add things to the network, they take things away from their network, and all of those can have an effect if it's not done correctly, as far as with security in mind.
So I don't know what you're talking about as a network. Tell me what the network is for those of us that don't know.
A network is generally computers that are connected together either by wireless or wired connections where they can talk to each other. Usually there's some kind of access to common printers, possibly some kind of file server of some sort, or access to where everybody on that particular network can have access to a single network connection.
So it's about connectivity, it seems.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and so we're looking at PC and devices, cell phones, and Internet of Things. Those can make up your network in your home.
That's right. Your washer is going to spy on you. So is your refrigerator. And that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of devices now that, a lot of them do realize it, but there's a lot of devices like TVs, for example. TVs, basically, you buy them off the shelf. A lot of them are network ready.
Right.
A lot of people use them for streaming and that kind of stuff, but there is some downside to that too. It can be rather insecure if you don't really take into consideration what can happen with that. Cell phones are another one. Cell phones plugged into PCs because people either want to download information or they want to update through their computer to their cell phone. That can be a security issue. Other PCs and devices, really you have to look at the security of who has access to that, and can they get access from the outside? Can they get access from the inside? In other words, can they come into your house and get into your PC? Do you have some kind of protection there?
So I guess a password is kind of needed even on a home computer or device.
It should. I mean, you should have some kind of password so that you can authenticate that you are who you are and that you're going to be the one that gets into the information that you want to keep private. A lot of things that happen, and I've seen this happen in the past where people have had their houses broken into and their PCs stolen, their laptops stolen, sometimes even their tablets stolen. There's personal information on there. And there wasn't even a password protecting it, let alone anything else.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I've noticed is I'll check my network and I suddenly got about 30 devices. Mm-hmm. And we forget that, the cell phone can connect wirelessly, the tablets. So my grandkids are here. The number of devices connected goes up quite a bit. And so I have to be careful because they put these programs on these apps. And these apps ask for permission. And the one that just drives me crazy is a flashlight that says it needs access to my network. Mm-hmm.
Why does it?
Yeah. And so that means if I say yes, I put a flashlight app on and it's on my phone. Now it has access to my network. And if that's breached or somebody wants to do something bad to that app, they have access. I've given them permission to walk right into my network and check everything out that's on that network. Is that correct?
Yep, it is correct. And the other thing is that, when you look at different apps and the permissions that they give, when you do updates, you need to check those permissions, because sometimes they want more access to your device.
Exactly. I've seen that.
And that's a problem. A lot of people don't think about it when they update. And the other thing that happens a lot of times with that kind of stuff is applications basically are really used to spy on people to see what they're interested in, especially like shopping apps. Somebody goes onto their shopping app, like, for, one of the big box stores or that kind of thing, and they start looking at things. Those companies watch that, and they watch who it comes from, and they send them ads. We've talked about that before, that who's spying on you on the network? Everybody.
So they're not going to give this stuff to you for free.
No, they're not.
They want something in return, which is usually information. And it may not be that it's harmful at the moment, but what happens if they get hacked by somebody? Now that changes the landscape even more in the danger zone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, look at hospitals. Hospitals are a prime example of what can happen if somebody steals information from. Well, if they steal information from a hospital, what kind of information do they have if they get a hold of your account? They've got your medical history. They've got your insurance information.
Right.
Sometimes they have your social security number in those.
Yeah, almost everybody wants your social security number.
Yep. And they have your address. They have your billing information. They have your phone number. They have a variety of different things that are usually, associated with that. And in some cases, there's been even when some of these institutions have gotten hacked and they've gotten patient information, there's been all kinds of insurance fraud that takes place afterwards as well, where, people start billing insurance companies based on the information that they get from different patients for different things, and bill out and sometimes they get a check back, sometimes they don't, but it's still worth a try to them because it doesn't cost them anything.
So now we've been just looking at the network is isolated in your home or your office.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're looking at the next step here is we begin to venture out into the coffee shop or the mall or whatever and stores. And I've got my electronic device or phone that starts connecting to all these different networks. Networks that aren't mine.
Public networks are, especially public wireless networks, are very dangerous. And that's because somebody else can be on a public network. And if they've got the right tools installed on their device, they can see everybody that's on that network. They can see everything that they're doing, depending on what kind of tools they have installed on their device. They can monitor everything on a given network. You go to your coffee shop, it says free Wi-Fi. There could be somebody that's sitting there with, a laptop looking at everybody that's connected to that network and looking at their devices, seeing where they're going. It's really, and of course, sometimes people don't secure their laptops and their devices, and some of them are vulnerable to attack.
So in my view of the last 20 some years, wireless, whether it's inside where you have a little bit more say or outside, wireless can be the most hard area to secure, it seems.
It is, and even with the new Wi-Fi 6, there are some dangers that are there. The security with the newest generation of Wi-Fi has gotten better, but it's still risky. And the thing is you can have a secure wireless connection, but if the network you're on is not secure or it's wide open like the Wild Wild West, it doesn't really matter at that point. If you've got somebody that's on the same network as you and they want to do malicious things, you can have a secure connection, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're on a secure network.
So it's almost scary to have all of this in our life today.
Yeah, it is.
So now I get paranoid and I don't want to be involved with the digital world at all, but how do I get away from it? Well, I guess that's another topic.
Well, it's another topic, but there are some things that you can put the biggest thing is learning. I mean, you really have to, how do you basically secure your networks? How do you secure your devices? And the do's and don'ts. Do you want to hook up to every public network of every store and business that you go into?
Probably
No.
not.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And shutting your Wi-Fi off on your phone when you're about town, that's a real easy thing to do. Just shut your Wi-Fi off on your phone. Don't worry about it. The other one that's also problematic in this day and age with a lot of cell phones is Bluetooth. If you don't have a Bluetooth device hooked up to your phone, Bluetooth can be exploited, and they can track you with that.
I'm on the call. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So you brought up a good point, is turning off things that you don't need. And of course, that's going to save some battery life, but it's also possibly going to protect you when you're out there in the world. There's a lot of people that have different devices that can do horrendous things without even being aware. That's why I don't like the near field communication turned on my phone or devices.
That's another one that's a problem.
Yeah, the touch and go pay and so, any of that stuff needs to still have some kind of protection, because if somebody has a device that has a way of connecting with any of that stuff, your credit card or whatever, you're wide open for an attack in that regard.
Well, if you have like one of the newer credit or debit cards that basically have an RFI chip in them, where you can go up to any kind of payment terminal, credit card payment terminal, just touch it to the terminal and it processes out. These are cards that you really should put in, some kind of slip case that keeps them from being read. Would you like to walk through something like DEF CON, which is a big hacker convention with a whole pocket full of, RFI cards? No, you don't, because there's people looking for that stuff. And there's people looking for it in malls, believe it or not.
Right,
There's people that wander around
coffee
with
shop.
scanners.
Yep. And so we're looking at our digital life has expanded now to even smart cards.
Yep.
And other things are on the horizon. So this is something we're going to have to become aware of, and we're going to have to, like you said, educate ourselves, become aware, and look at what we can do to protect ourselves and do our best effort. We may not get 100% there, but let's make it hard for the other guy. I'd like to go on and talk about some of the attacks and hacks starting at the top. We've already kind of talked about the stealing of the ID. And so we're not going to spend a lot on that. Ransomware is up. We're seeing more and more places being hit. You want to just briefly talk about what ransomware is for someone that might not know?
Ransomware can basically affect computers. It can affect phones. It can affect tablets. It can affect generally devices that people use every day for everything from, run-of-the-mill email and watching movies and streaming stuff, all the way to businesses that run large accounting concerns and that kind of thing. The ransomware is insidious because it usually either gets into your computer through one of two ways, usually through email or through your browser. And once you get a ransomware attack, the ransomware goes in and starts encrypting all your files on your computer, making it inaccessible, in some cases, making the computer non-responsive. It just basically goes through and keeps encrypting things sitting there, and you never know that it's going on because it's going on in the background. By the time you realize what's happening, usually you get either a email or sometimes a phone call, but that's very rare. In this day and age with digital phones, though, it does happen. and they want money to basically decrypt your computer so you can get all your files back.
That's the word ransom. And
Mhm.
okay, so
And they're holding your data hostage, and they've held it hostage by basically encrypting it all. And unless you pay, you don't get it back.
yeah, well,
And
that they make money from businesses, but what about the average home person? Do they get money off of this?
there have been individuals that have been victims of ransomware, and they don't necessarily have to be rich. You know, the thing with ransomware, for the most part, with how things are now, is it's very low risk in comparison to the amount of money that you can get out of it. You know, if you can go in and you can, it's very low risk that they would ever find out who you were as a ransomware attacker, especially if you're out of the country. Um, the real deal is if I can get from an individual anything from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, and I can get that from 1,000 people, I'm making a lot of money, and the risk is very low. And we all hear about the, pipelines. We hear about the hospitals. I mean, ransomware attacks on hospitals are up from 2019 to 2020. They were up 470%.
Wow.
So that's an amazing statistic. And why is it right? Because it's low risk for the person that's perpetrating the ransomware.
And homeowners and small businesses and nonprofits, they seem to be the easy targets for crime.
Yep.
They don't have near the manpower and the economics usually to think about and put in place security. And we'd like to help them change that. And the other part about easy target for crime is if they know you're not home, because your social media is telling everybody out there that's watching you that you're not home, that's an easy target to rob the house. That's a good time to break.
Getting on social media and telling people that in a couple of weeks you're going to be going on vacation to Hawaii, for example. And then while you're in Hawaii, posting pictures on your social media of all the places that you're going and various other things. And most people on social media use their real names. It's pretty easy to make the connection that they're not home.
Right.
And if they're not home and they're in Hawaii, their house is wide open. And so when you're looking at what you post on social media, it can affect your safety, it can affect your property, it can affect your life, and in some cases, it can be very detrimental. It's not a good idea to post your itinerary on social media, and some people do.
Yeah.
Some people, they.
Well, I think where a lot of people fail to realize that there are a lot of bad people out there looking for easy targets.
Mm-hmm.
And we make ourselves easy targets often without even thinking about it by what we say or post online. So a lot of the hacks and attacks we've talked about, they come through the email. That's one of the high attack points. Even if it seems to be somebody we know, that's usually a bad indicator that you're getting an email from somebody and it's talking about something that off the wall. Like I'm over here in Brazil and I need $600. I've seen that.
The Nigerian prince that has $18 million and wants your bank account information so they can transfer the 18 million in so that when they get over to the States, they can transfer it into another account and they'll give you 2%. That's one of the oldest scams out there. And people have fallen for it. They give them the bank account information and then they go look at their bank account and it's completely empty or it's overdrawn.
Yeah, I was praying, God, I need some extra money, and I get this email. It sounds like it's too good to be true. It is.
And phishing is another one that happens a lot. I mean, we get a lot of that in our household where we get various phishing emails where, oh, you've ordered something from Amazon and it's going to be billed to you in the next 48 hours. And did you really order this? And of course, there's the login right there in the email and the button to click on and all that kind of stuff. And it's totally fake. it looks like an Amazon email. It's got all the graphics from Amazon, but if you look in at the headers and you look at the actual address of where things are going to, it has nothing to do with Amazon. It's
And
people fishing for information.
we're going to show in another series how to look for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you'll click on it and it'll have you log into your account, and they get
Mhm.
your username and your password, and it possibly will throw an error saying the account's been locked or something, or
Mhm.
cannot access. But now they've got access and they can go into your account. So
Yeah.
phishing is spear phishing is specifically aimed at an individual, and phishing is kind of a broader term where it's thrown out there to a lot of people, just seeing who's going to take a bite. So,
And it's probably as far as breaches of information and breaches of personal and business security, phishing is probably the number one for giving away the farm, as it were, with when it comes to people getting email and thinking that they got to respond to it or they got to take some kind of action.
and we click it on and it installs some kind of malware or some kind of virus.
There's drive-bys that come out of that as well.
Yeah. So again, we'll be talking about looking at the address bars as well as the headers and showing you how to take a look at that in an upcoming module here. So we've looked at this. There's fake websites that look real. You couldn't tell them apart from the real deal. Sometimes it's just a misspelling by one word or dyslexic type spelling that people do common. You really got to look up there at the address bar to make sure where you're at. And
there are lots of domains. If you go in and you look at like, oh, we'll take any kind of bank. If you look at a bank that's got a website, you can go and you can look at all of the misspellings of that bank, and people have registered those names and created websites that look like the bank so they can harvest that information. And it's amazing what people have done. And then of course you also have the other issue that goes along with this is the biggest thing is scams at this point. And it's not just about email scams, but scams in general. There are a lot of scammers that will call and start talking about, your computer's broken or your warranty is, done, and you've got this stuff installed that's going to cost, we're going to bill you another $239 and blah, 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 blah. There's all kinds of ways that they try to get people to get in there, and they'll have them install some kind of desktop software to where they can go do remote into your desktop. And they'll play all kinds of games. There's the banking game where, they deposit too much money in your account and then they want you to go get gift cards to pay them back. And if you don't, the guy's going to lose his job. That's like one of the more ridiculous ones. I would never fall for that, but people do. And it's usually older people that are the victims of those kind of crimes.
It's like prey on the kindness and mercy of other people often.
The other one is the Social Security scam, where your Social Security number has been stolen and is being used, and they need a whole bunch of information from you and sometimes money to fix it. And basically, if anybody that is asking you over the telephone for access to your computer and they want you to pay something with gift cards, or they want you to pay something with, purchase debit cards, the ones that you fill and that kind of stuff at the store, any of that kind of stuff, don't buy into it. Yeah. It's garbage. They're trying to scam you.
Well, so we were looking at this at their websites that do get hacked.
Yep.
And you're on the legitimate website, but they've been hacked and something's been put in there. And a drive-by, you want to talk about that real quickly?
Drive-bys are usually code that when you go to a particular site that as you basically enter that site, the site installs code on your computer or your device that is a malicious type of software. And what it basically does is it can give somebody access to your computer just by going to a website.
So I don't have to push a button or
No,
a link.
not,
I'm
you
just
don't
in
have to
trouble
push a
for
button. You don't have
that.
to say you agree. You don't have to say okay.
Oh, that's
It's just you go there and you got it.
and this is why we really need to have good antivirus, anti-malware on board and
You should
browser.
have a really good antivirus, good antivirus and malware. And the other thing is that you should keep your computer up to date
Yep.
as much as you possibly can.
And
You know,
secure
the best
browsers help.
recommendations are usually that you should at least check your computer for updates 2 to 3 times a week to make sure that your operating system is, you know, the most current with the newest bug fixes and that kind of thing. So some people never update their computer. Some people, you know, go 6 months. Now you should do it at least 2 to 3 times a week to check and see if there are updates. That's a real big one. And if you have virus software, depending on the virus software, make sure that you've got the most current everything.
And freeze antivirus software usually doesn't do all the update and protection
No.
without you actually activating it and pushing the buttons and making it happen. So it's not as proactive, it's more or less reactive after the fact.
And as far as the list of viruses that are in the free virus software, the actual database that they run from, it's usually not current.
Right.
And most of the time, the companies that offer the free virus software are using that as a test bed to basically make their product better, not so much your security for free better. And a lot of those free antivirus softwares also do reporting back. And they can tell a lot from that information, even though it doesn't identify you specifically. They can tell where you go, where you've been,
right.
All kinds of different things. They can tell what you've downloaded. They can tell, you know, there's a variety of different things that the free antivirus does. But it does give them a platform to develop their paid software at a higher level because they can experiment with it.
There's a reason things are free.
Yes, there is.
Somebody's got to get something out of it. Otherwise, it's not they couldn't afford to give it away free. The fake links, we kind of touched on that, but that'd be a link, but it's not really going where you want it to go. And again, running your mouse over that, looking down, depending on where your browser locates, you can see sometimes, or you can right or left click your mouse, depending how it's set up, and say copy the address and take that over to the notepad and paste it in there and take a look at it. And we'll talk about that and show you some things in the upcoming modules. Before we run out of time, which we're getting close there, you know, man in the middle is a lot more time involved, but that's somebody that usually will get in between you and your wireless router. And then you don't know that you're now working on their network or computer and they're seeing everything you're doing. That's a real quick, you may want to
it can not only apply to wireless, but it also can apply to wired networks. And it depends on how much infiltration they have into the wired network.
Right. So if you can get inside and put something.
If you can get inside, you can sit in the middle and you can read all the traffic going back and forth between various users.
And you can do that off of usually sending some kind of email or some kind of compromising of the software.
Well, if you have actual access to the network that you're on, depending on what kind of traffic's going back and forth, you can basically tell a lot. And sometimes somebody will sit in the middle and they'll have a computer that your computer thinks it's a gateway, but it's actually somebody else's computer, and it just kind of forwards the information across seamlessly, right. And you don't even know that you're being hacked.
And they usually use this thing called social engineering to get inside.
Social engineering, boy, that's a big subject, a real big subject. So it usually involves convincing people of the need for you to do what they want you to do. Social engineering can be just about in any form of communication you can think of. It can be in person, it can be through email, it can be through just any way that you want to, any way that you can make contact with somebody else and compel them or convince them to do something that'll benefit you,
Or give you information without
or
realizing.
give you information that you can use. And again, they have laws in California about social engineering. There's like a couple of laws that makes it illegal, but for the rest of the United States, there isn't really a lot of social engineering laws that make it illegal to do social engineering. And you have to be aware that, and it's also, if you're a business, you have to train your employees to, avoid a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, the whole idea of, calling somebody up on the phone and telling them you need their bank account number so that they can, transfer their lottery winnings from Ireland into it. That's actually a form of social engineering. If it's usually the thing when you look at social engineering, is it too good to be true? And if it is, it's probably fake. And the other thing is that most of the time when people are requested to give information, depending on if it's their job or what have you, people are trying to basically help. And, they'll try to help you as much as they can. And if you appear sincere and you appear honest and that kind of thing, it's amazing what kind of information somebody will give you with just the right prompting.
So in other words, they're kind of conmen.
That's probably what it is. It's the 21st century con man.
Yeah. And so as we alluded to, trash, people going through your trash and gathering information, highly recommend getting a shredder that cuts it up into tiny confetti.
Mm-hmm.
Because people can tape and glue strips back together and figure out what's being said on that. And my favorite is my barbecue, because then I burn it. So it's trying to read that ash.
The other thing that you have as far as like, dumpster diving, that's really important to, do shredding to really, eliminate your information trail as much as possible. The other thing is people will get rid of devices.
Yep.
That, their phone breaks. What do they do with it? A lot of times people have broken phones, they'll throw them away, or they'll,
donate if they get a new one, the other one works, or the computer.
And they don't realize that their phone still has a lot of information on it. Same with computers, hard drives and computers. They'll get rid of computers, they'll give them away, or they'll take them to a electronic recycling place or whatever. There's still valuable information on that.
You need again to shred that information.
There are companies out there that not only shred documents but also destroy hard drives.
Or if you're going to keep the device intact, you can electronically use programs to wipe it. But if you're really looking at security, we really recommend destroying the hard drive, because they're cheap enough. Most people can come up with a new one. But that we're running out of time. I just want to thank Bryne Parrott, again, the founder of Silverback Servers, making secure servers. And I thank you, Bryne, for your time. I look forward to continuing this series to help homeowners and small businesses become more aware of what they can do to secure their networks, their home devices, and their own personal life and safety. Again, thank you. Have a nice day.